A very warm welcome to Daily Dispatch powered by HSBC. I'm Priya Sheth, and joining me for this very interesting conversation is Nitin Agarwal from GlobalBees. Thank you very much, Nitin, for joining us today on the Daily Dispatch. I want to begin by talking to you a little bit about the good news that's been floating around. GlobalBees has turned unicorn, which seems to be an exciting news because, we've seen a whole host of unicorns over the last year in 2021. So what does this really mean for you at GlobalBees?
Well, doesn't change much. I think valuation is just one aspect of the business. We're really focused. I think the last year has shown the resilience of India and what is the opportunity in India. And all the fellow entrepreneurs have been making extremely good use of this and creating some valuable business, and that's being shown up. It's great to be here and great to be in the journey. But from an execution standpoint of view, it's work as usual, very focused to build a large and a valuable enterprise, which is valuable to our shareholders, our customers, and our employees.
Right. This recent round of fundraise, tell us a little bit about it in terms of what the utilization is going to be.
Well, for us, the maximum utilization for the fund is to be able to invest and acquire brands. So we're kind of operating the roll-up company where we invest into the brand. So that's where the maximum utilization of the funds will continue to be. And then obviously some parts of the world of the fundraise would be deployed in the building the enterprise, the technology platform, the supply chain network, etc.
Right. Going forward, Nitin, I want to understand as we enter 2022, for the rest of the calendar year, what kind of ambitions do you have for GlobalBees? Is there a roadmap that you've set for yourself for the year?
We have our long-term vision, and then we do our annual operating plans. I think last year, we've just been around for probably less than 6 months since we started operating. So it's a lot about foundation creation. I think we've just entered our second phase where we've invested into certain companies. We're looking right now at a portfolio about 15, 20, which we are running right now. And the next year would be, while we continue with this, acquisition and more investment and partnership with the entrepreneurs, but it will be about the growth of the companies that we invested in. And literally our portfolio level target is we should be able to grow these companies at least 200 to 300% over the year. And that's what we are extremely focused on.
Tell us a little bit about valuations, Nitin, in terms of how valuations are shaping up in the whole ecosystem. We're seeing quite a few tuck-in acquisitions happening by a lot of brands. Like we've seen over the last 6 to 8 months, we've seen a whole host of acquisitions across the board. It's not specific to a certain sector. So tell us a little bit about how valuations are shaping up in the industry.
Yeah, and look, before I talk about the valuations, I think it's a great thing. If you look at over the past decade, one of the complaints that the global investors always had was India did not have exits. While there were valuations, the exits were not there. And it wasn't as dynamic ecosystem as, say, for example, Silicon Valley would do. I think these acquisitions are providing now a great ecosystem lever or a flywheel, which is happening where you'll see more and more early stage investments and they are getting exits. So it's overall an extremely great thing for the ecosystem. On the valuations, honestly, I think it's all between the seller and buyer, what value they are looking at from each other and the partner and the investor. So it's a broad spectrum. There are some people who would take a very aggressive call on a portfolio, and then there are some people who may not take that aggressive call on the portfolio and the ecosystem, and valuation is all function of that. So it's a view of a sector and a company by individual investors, and depending on that, the valuations would move. Obviously, when there is a competition, it's hard to get your desired valuation, and I think from a seller perspective, is always going to maximize, buyers is always want to minimize. It's a balance.
Okay. Nitin, are there specific sectors that you're looking at this point in time? Have you outlined which sectors that you'd be focusing on?
Yeah, we've clearly outlined the sectors, and I've said that in the past. I think FMCG is one great play for us. Sports is another great play for us. Sports, health, and nutrition is what we call it. That's another great play for us. The home and kitchen plus a general merchandise is a very, very interesting. And then we're looking at fashion accessories. So those are kind of four plays right now where we're doing. We continue to evaluate other sectors. We take a very top-down approach. When we look at the sector, we look at the opportunity and then look at the targets. So from those perspective, I think currently we're looking at these four and then evaluating the feedback.
As we speak, Nitin, we're seeing a lot of interesting evolution in business models at this point in time. We've seen, Mensa also on similar lines. We've seen GlobalBees also on similar lines. And there are a lot of other emerging models which are following the same business plan per se. So tell us a little bit about, why do you think this model is right for the Indian market at this point?
Well, I mean, honestly, any model where you see opportunities will always see multiple players in any market, and that is bound to happen. So that's good for the ecosystem. People try out different things and different models, and then obviously a strong model and companies emerge from there. So no qualms about that. The question is, why is it right for India? I think it's as right for India as for any other geographies. If you typically look at standalone brands, just look at the pyramid, for example. You would have probably 100,000 brands, labels, or companies which will get created, which will reach a 5 crore, 10 crore, and then get stuck. Out of that, 10%, maybe 10,000 will reach 20 crores. Out of that, maybe again, a 1% will reach 100 crore, and then 1% will reach 1,000 crore. That's literally the pyramid of the growth. And one of the basic reasons for doing that is while people do find a product market fit as an individual brand, it's not always possible for the individual brands to be, to create the entire infrastructure, whether it is people, whether it's supply chain, whether it's, organized or corporatized setup, or even for example, some brands, while they're niche and valuable, will only have, they're good brands, but they will be 100 crores brand only, and these are profitable businesses. And those kind of businesses are well run in a setup like ours, because then you get the economies of scale, you get the economies of efficiencies, and then you can grow them and build a very, very strong foundation brands over a period of time. So that's really the crux of this model, and I think that continues. So India was always ready, I would say, and then get the amount of entrepreneurs and business which are there. And they really work well. Running a 50 crore or 100 crore brand at a standalone versus running at a household brand, you will obviously get the economies of efficiencies.
Right, Nitin, a final question before I let you go. Over the next 2 to 3 years, where do you see GlobalBees positioned in the overall market landscape?
So as I said, we look at very, very category-specific focus, and we're looking at each of those categories creating an impactful portfolio from GlobalBees perspective, and each of those GlobalBees category portfolio companies, will stand for the category known brand name which is there in the household. That's really what we're focusing on. And as we take the category approach, our leverage across the brands becomes far more scalable, whether we talk about online distribution, international, offline distribution, etc. So that's really what we are focused on doing.
Any metrics that you can share in terms of revenue, in terms of overall growth?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say, but essentially from a company perspective, we're looking to at least touch $1 billion revenue in the next 3 years, and that's a North Star metrics, I would say, on the revenue that we're targeting.
All right, we'll be looking forward to $1 billion over the next couple of years. Thank you very much, Nitin, for joining us today, and we wish you all the very best in your journey. Thanks so much for joining us on the Daily Dispatch. It's always a pleasure speaking with you.